Police. When you hear that word, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Speeding ticket. Yeah, a lot of people say that. What's the emotion that's evoked in you? Fear. I hear that a lot as well. Does the word human instantly pop into your mind? Probably not. There are many words that may pop into a person's mind about police. Some are good, some are bad. I found it very interesting that today's topic is being human. I contemplated the message that I wanted to convey today and how I would convey it. So today I chose to speak about something I've been around my entire life. I chose to speak about police work. And it is with my hopes that I'm able to impact at least one person with what I have to share today. Before I delve into police work, allow me to give you a little backstory on me. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and I descend from a Brooklyn-born Jewish mother and a full-blooded Native American father. I know, it's an unusual mix, right? I get that a lot. I'm a Native American Jew. I'll tell you a joke, but I'll save it for later. To say the least, I'm proud to say that I'm a federally registered Native American, and I'm a member of the Taos Pueblo. Hi, Dad. It's quite possible that maybe the adversity that both tribes have faced creates a DNA in me that makes me who I am today. We all are a sum of our life experiences, right? Rose Kennedy once said, "Prosperity tries the fortunate, adversity the great." But shouldn't we all choose to be great humans? With that being said, being human, what does that mean to me? What does it mean to you? To me, in the simplest form, it means that we should all strive to be selfless and serve others. And I've heard other speakers tonight talking about the word selfless. I live by the words that my mother would tell me as a child. If serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. So I was raised to have a heart of service and raised to protect those that were not strong enough to protect themselves. I've been a police officer for over 13 years, and it's something that people are always seemingly surprised by when I find out. It may be that people have generalized views about what police officers should look like. I've been told that many times that not only do I not look like one, but I don't act like one. I'm not always sure how to take that. I've come to realize that I need to be self-aware of my facial expressions when people make comments like that to me. As my boss recently said, that I sometimes intimidate people. I simply stared at him until he apologized. When people make comments about me being a police officer, I have to interpret their true intent through the context of the conversation. The person is making that statement as well as the political climate currently. Most often the conversation ends up with one of three responses, and when I told you that, you probably had one of these three responses in your mind. Geez, I hate cops. Second, wow, I know who to call when I get pulled over. And third, you guys have it tough. You don't get paid enough for the sacrifices that you make. I can honestly take a little from each statement and understand why an individual might say each one of them. What I often remind people is that yes, there are some bad cops, and they come from a larger populace of good cops. But as in any line of work, people are human, and there will always be a certain number of people that are bad, and a certain number of people that will be good. Policing's no different. Behind me, as I said, you'll see the images of police officers across the United States. Each one of them a great story about what they're giving back to their communities. These officers are all different ages, races, religions, male and female. Police officers are human. Yes, we wear uniforms, and we don badges and guns. But we're human first and foremost. We're sisters, brothers, wives. In my case, I'm an ex-wife. Husbands, daughters, sons, mothers, fathers, neighbors, coaches, counselors, social workers, peacemakers, and soldiers. We cry, we laugh, we get angry, we empathize, we get depressed. We bleed, and yes, we do die. Some of us at the hands of suspects, and some of us sadly at our own hands. You may not always like us, but where would society be without us? For those of you that are hockey fans, I know there's one back there, Marc Messier once said, "Bravery is not the absence of fear, but action in the face of fear." We run towards bullets. We run into dangerous critical incidents. We risk life and limb for the protection of others. Police officers take an oath in which a portion states that we safeguard lives and property to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all to liberty, equality, and justice. I, along with countless numbers of other police officers across the United States, take that oath very, very seriously. And I personally have, since the moment I recited it over 13 years ago. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, there are approximately 790,000 police officers in the United States. These individuals entered into the career for noble reasons. I believe in service to my community, service with integrity, and service with transparency. The topic of transparency is something very important to me, though it is a word that tends to scare some people. Transparency offers the public an opportunity to not only learn what we as officers deal with on a daily basis, but also aids in ensuring that police officers conduct themselves appropriately under the color of the law. According to ODMP, verified line of duty deaths, in 2019, 118 officers were killed at the hands of others. According to bluehelp.org, verified suicides to date in 2019, that number's higher. It's 213 officers killed themselves. So that's a total of 331 police officers that have died in 2019. When a police officer is killed, it's not an agency that loses an officer, it's an entire nation. That's a quote by Chris Cosgroff. He's the Officer Down Memorial Page founder. I'm going to first tell you a quick story about me and my mother. At the age of 4, my mother grabbed a loaf of bread and took me by the hand, and she walked me to a local park. We lived in a very rough area of Los Angeles called Echo Park. Some of you from LA may be familiar. Now you have to go back, this is 1975, okay? As an innocent 4-year-old, I thought we were going to feed the ducks. We had bread with us, right? There was a small pond at the park. My mother had a bigger life lesson to teach me. As we walked into the park, I saw what I thought was just trash on the ground. My mother pointed at flattened cardboard boxes strewn about the sidewalk, and she pointed out that underneath those cardboard boxes were men and women that were sleeping. She gently explained to me that those were homeless people with nowhere to go, and that if I wanted to grow up and not end up like that I should never drink alcohol or do drugs. We didn't feed the ducks that day. We left the loaf of bread on a bench near several homeless men. And at the tender age of 4, I really didn't comprehend the depth of that lesson. It wasn't until I began getting older and seeing so many homeless people on the streets of Los Angeles that I began to understand what my mother had tried to convey to me that day in Echo Park, and it made a lasting lifetime impression on me. It taught me to help others, even when I myself was facing overwhelming obstacles, as well as to maintain a life without addictions. I didn't grow up with a conventional family. I had my mom and my 2 older sisters. All 3 of us had different fathers. We moved around a lot. We never seemed to be able to plant roots anywhere, and I often felt like an outsider. I remember nights where I and my 2 sisters would share a can of salmon and tomato sauce because my mother was too proud to accept welfare. I had very little stability in my life until the age of 8 when my mother met and married a police officer. My stepfather was strict, but he was fair, and we lived in a nice home after they were married. I remember when I was 5 and accompanying my mother into the sheriff's office where she worked as a secretary. Visualize this. I've got my sippy cup in my hand. Back then, this is, 1976. It was metal, it wasn't plastic. And I was running it along the bars in the holding cells and telling the defendants, "Bad boy, bad boy." 5-year-old yelling at defendants. Funny things to remember, right? At the age of 12, when I met a guidance counselor at school, and he asked me, "What career do you want to be when you grow up?" I didn't say police officer. I told him that I wanted to design cars. I was told, women aren't meant to be car designers. And he told me I should just aim to be a secretary, and I didn't need an advanced degree. Fast forward to age 14, I was drafting cars at the Pasadena Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California, and I was working with Ford engineers as a student designer. At the age of 18, I was told women don't belong in the Army. A few short years later, I was in basic training in Missouri. At the age of 33, fast forwarding a lot now, I was told women don't make great cops. I chose to finally pursue my career as an officer. And in 2007, I received a gold star by the Sheriff of Lake County, Florida, for exemplary display of commitment to public service. At the age of 38, I finally achieved my master's degree with a 4.0 from beginning to end. Moral of the story, never, ever give up. Don't let anybody that wants to dash your dreams do that. Ignore those that try to stand in your way of your goals. Aspire to inspire. Allow me to rewind for just 1 second. At the age of 19, I was told by a police detective that my mother had been found in a remote field. She had died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. My mother had killed herself. I always knew from a young age that my mother had depression, and she would often comment that she would never live to be an old woman. It was then, when that detective was comforting me, that I decided I would indeed one day work towards a career in law enforcement. I went to college. I feel it's important that a police officer be educated, not only in life experiences, but also so that they can speak intelligently on a variety of topics. I obtained my associate's degree in public affairs, connected with a major at a local police department in order to become mentored by him. And that major had me focus on a degree in public administration. I went on to get married, have my first child, and I worked for a variety of philanthropic organizations in Broward County, Florida. This was the reason I chose to wait until age 33 to go into the police academy. For some reason, the general public has an impression that police officers make a decent salary. I don't know where they get that from. I started out in 2006, making $12 an hour. My highest hourly wage was a bit over $18 an hour, even with a master's degree, extensive training and experience. A Florida state job that was recently posted, seeking an experienced law enforcement officer with a bachelor's degree, pays $39,500. The career is certainly not one that you will ever be able to become rich in. You will never be able to spend freely without calculating every single penny that you get in your net paycheck. We know we will never get rich in this career, yet we agree to sacrifice birthdays, holidays, weekends with our families. We accept the fact that we may not return home at the end of that shift. We accept the fact that our kids may just end up growing up without us. We do it for the greater good of society, even though we know we are hated by many of those that we swear to protect. In the immortal words of Martin Luther King Jr., we need leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice. Not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. I named this presentation Policing the Police for a reason that will be shocking to many. Let me preface my next disclosure with my reiteration of the police officer's oath, in that our fundamental duty is to respect the constitutional rights of all to liberty, equality, and justice. I am a staunch supporter and believer in the Constitution of the United States. That being said, it should be a goal of every law enforcement officer to represent the U.S. Constitution and protect citizens against civil rights violations. Within the officer's oath, we pledge that we will never engage in acts of corruption or bribery, nor will we condone such acts by other police officers. I will cooperate with all legally authorized agencies and their representatives in the pursuit of justice. It's never about the money, is what I want to say, to dedicated police officers. It's about the pursuit of justice in all we do. It's about serving the community that we work for. My point about the personal stories that I've shared with you tonight is to show you that there are many officers that do this job because they possess a passion for serving others, in despite of the personal risks that they face on a daily basis. And in this picture, you see a young man on the left. This was another one of those pictures donated by an officer. The officer conveyed to me that this young man had told him in this picture, "I'll be honest with you, I am a troublemaker, and I hate the cops. But I really need to speak to somebody." This young man had recently lost his brother in a shooting. So this officer sat down and he listened to him as he cried. This is policing. This is being human. It's overlooking the fact that another person just told you that they hate you. And yet you open yourself up to them and you listen intently to their problems. Sometimes police work is foot chases and interesting stories to tell friends. Sometimes it's heartbreaking scenes involving injured, dead, or dying people. These are the officers that have been killed in 2019, all across the United States. These are the police officers that have been killed just this week alone. They're men, they're women, they're fathers, their brothers, their sisters, their wives, their husbands, their teachers, their counselors, their social workers, their soldiers, their fighters, their protectors. Integrity is choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun, fast, and easy, and choosing to practice our values rather than simply processing them. I have a strong belief that helping one person might not change the whole world, but it could change the world for that one person. Transparency with policing is vital to maintain order, and that is something that everybody should want. I want to stop hearing people say, "It's what you signed up for." No one signs up for anything hoping to be hated, injured, or killed. They sign up to make a difference. Thanks so much for listening.